made it. We're here. Are you guys excited?
We got an Emmy. Can we get those?
Golden Globes only.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the one, right?
Potties. We get potties.
So terrible. No, we're finally here. We have reached the threshold. We want to thank all of you on Cannibals for listening. We're now in the process of going under full transition into making this a faith and cherished organization that we can proceed forward in a space of worship. And I guess to open this up, I was curious, as we move the podcast into becoming a cult, what do you think some of our traditions should be? What type of membership are we looking for? Do our listeners need to get more serious? What do you think?
Well, I understand that this is going to be big news to our listeners, but a lot of you have been asking for this, and frankly, this has been our goal from the very beginning. I think the core tenets of our project, let's call it, would be obviously be well unto others.
Yeah. It's always a staple, right?
Enrich the world.
Yeah.
Live, laugh, learn.
And when you say enrich the world, like capitalism, right?
Yeah, like get rich.
Or die trying.
Get that fat stack, son.
Thank you. That's good.
That's up there for sure for me. Always has been.
Good. Yeah.
Other podcasts entertain. We enlighten.
Okay. Now we're getting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Are any of us capable? This is another thing I was thinking of. Is it would have been good to announce this earlier? Are we any of us capable of anything supernatural?
Yeah.
What do you do?
I'm very good at conversation at parties.
Oh yeah,
just phenomenal conversant.
I've seen brains shut down
Yeah.
when you've begun to use that silvery tongue of yours. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I can usually tell when people are tired of me speaking, and then I can leave the conversation. I can end it. Yeah,
I can tell when people are tired. Period. I think just that
looking at them.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's not.
You go and you put your hand on them and you restore energy to them.
Yeah, usually I scare them, and then the adrenaline kind of brings something back.
They run away, and you're like, "That's energy, baby."
I don't know. And yeah, listeners, I mean, send us your emails, your text messages, PO box letters, whatever you can for what would impress you. We got to keep this going. Don, anything supernatural that you can do?
No, I'm just more of a follower, I think. I can make Kool-Aid.
You have the practical know-how that is required to maintain this organization.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's right.
Well, hopefully we don't start calling you Brian. And go in that direction. But to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of cults. I'm not really a huge fan.
Oh.
I don't actually want our podcast.
Oh, were you testing me?
Yeah, I was.
I feel a little caught out in the open.
This is going to be the last meeting with Ron, but it's been fun. It's been fun, I'll tell you that. I'm not really a big fan of cults. I think they might have a history of doing some bad stuff.
Have you ever been in a cult?
I've wondered about that. Because
you're not sure.
I don't know.
Well,
I get it, right? Like, what is a cult really? I think
you're right.
You say cult and you say they're all bad, but I was thinking like, are all cults bad? There must have been a good cult.
There's got to be some good cults.
What, like, can we go back? What is the original cult? I mean, the word cult, right, comes from what? The ancient Greek cults of the Greek gods?
It comes from Latin, from cultus, which means worship.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a person who worships, right? Mm-hmm. So what, they were like cults of Dionysius and Aphrodite. And,
excellent pronunciation.
Right? And those weren't necessarily bad all the time, probably.
I'd like to know. I've never been a part of them. Well, and then I also think I think of cult followings as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of movies that I enjoy. I have a signed football from Tommy.
The Room?
Yeah, from Tommy Wiseau, and that's considered one of the greatest cult films of all time.
It does have a cult following.
When you go see it in a theater in Los Angeles, especially, it seems that the members of the audience are almost engaged in a rapturous behavior that could be called religious.
I think my argument is that somewhere in modern parlance, the word cult donned a negative connotation, right? A connotation of evil and being bad or being mindless, right? But like Don said, it really just described worshipers or worship, the act of worship, and I don't think we think worship is bad. So I'm just interested in like, what's the line between cult worship and worship, good worship?
The word, as we understand it today, started to be used by psychologists in the early 20th century to refer to groups that are led by a charismatic leader that's usually secretive in nature. The personality is what carries the system forward, separate from a religious cult, which would be just a group of believers. And so historically, that would be how that word had been used, like in ancient times. Like you were talking about, the cult of different gods would refer to the worship practices of followers of Dionysus or Aphrodite or Zeus. Or so it didn't have a negative. However, there have always been those like sectarian outsiders that are challenging established religion that are often like, even though the word didn't exist, they were still sort of identified as dangerous outsiders who had a different belief system or were challenging a belief system, or so that has existed always. But
your Quakers and your Protestants and things, right?
Even Jesus would have been considered an outsider to the established religion at the time. So
coming in on a donkey, it's a very different. It's a very different thing. It's interesting even bringing that up because I've actually sat in on. I'm not a practicing Quaker by any means, but I have sat in on a Quaker prayer meeting and to sit in a room for 45 minutes before anybody speaks anything that they're hearing. I could see certain groups of people saying, it seems like this is cult-like behavior. It's interesting. It's interesting to get to the bottom. And you're right. And maybe I did spin this very negatively right away. Like, cult doesn't have to necessarily be bad.
I mean, they probably are, right? Like,
and I'm going to say, what if I told you I knew about a pretty bad one? What if I just objectively told you, I think this one's bad?
Yeah, I believe it. Who's our bad? What bad cult you found for us today, Doug?
Well, let's go back to 1995. What were you doing in 1995?
Ooh, that's 2 years after Jurassic Park came out. So probably watching Jurassic Park on VHS in my living room.
The cult of
a 6-year-old.
Spielberg.
Probably eagerly awaiting. I'm sure The Lost World is around the corner. Maybe a trailer for it has already come out.
Okay.
Space Jam maybe came out.
You believe you can fly? Yeah. I can see that.
That's what I'm doing in 1995.
All right.
Don, what are you doing in 1995?
I'm studying. I'm in college.
Okay. Hyper focused.
I'm learning.
In many ways, I was studying too, just like
I was not. There's nothing in my life resembling studying at that time. 1995, there was an incident in Japan, March 20th to be exact, that during Tokyo's busiest morning commute, chaos had erupted on the underground. There were 5 coordinated attacks.
Can I just say that Tokyo subways are chaos all the time anyways? Have you ever seen pictures of them?
No, I have.
Like they are the attendants are like shoving people into the cars, racking them in so that way the train. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's chaos.
I feel like they could pop up in montages where people are like, the people are ants, and then they'll show you clips of like the Tokyo subway.
That sounds very organized to me. I don't know if that sounds like chaos. If you have people pushing you into it, sounds like forced order more than anything.
It means your entire subway ride is made up of contact on all sides.
Yeah.
Other people.
I did experience that in the tube in London, where somebody had entered the vehicle by literally just leaning on people and hearing people go, "Oh God," which is still one of my funniest memories of public transit. But not that I have many, but
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Chaos
I liked
erupted
it.
March
I liked that you
20th,
did.
1995.
It was
Tokyo.
Yes. There were 5 coordinated attacks on the Tokyo subway using something called sarin gas that left 13 dead, over 1,000 injured, and a nation in shock. This was delivered during the morning, of course, as this was happening. And interestingly enough, this occurred in an area that intersected where each of these trains that were attacked, actually all of their exit routes led to the major government and police stations in the Tokyo area. And through what we know now, we know that this is the work of the Aum Shinrikyo cult, which famously, this was probably their most significant attack. They do have some other moments that we're going to discuss, but it did lead to the deaths and the hurting of many. And this is part of the reason that I'm going to argue that this is a bad cult.
Only part.
That's kind of unfair. I was trying to make it all right, and you can't bring out the terrorist cult.
It's really unfortunate. So, had either of you heard of this incident before we got to talking?
I have, yeah. I've heard of this incident. I've heard of this group. I can't say I'm an expert about it, but it's come across my way in my travels.
So you haven't watched their anime?
No. They have an anime?
Yeah, you can watch the whole thing.
Is it Gundam? Is Gundam Shinrikyo allegory?
It very much is in that style. It does not have any giant mecha robots. Okay. But yes, the animation style is incredibly similar. And yeah, if you YouTube the cult, you can watch the hour and 2 minutes, which I wish I could say that I did that level of research, that I decided to put myself through that, but I have watched a little bit of it. But
so
yes.
I'm sorry, an anime about like this, the history of this group, or this group produced an anime as a sort of like propaganda
This
item?
group produced the anime to really push their leader. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's flying around. His hair is always flowing in the wind.
He's Dragon Ball. He's Super Saiyan. He's the OG Super Saiyan.
I don't want to put this on Dragon Ball because I love Dragon Ball so much, but yeah, that's what they're trying to push, to say the least. Yeah, Don, were you familiar with this before?
Yes, because I was an adult when it happened. So,
Okay.
I saw it on the news, and yes, it was.
Remember when I said I was studying? That was the most obvious thing you could have said. Okay, so Don's going to take it away from here. Have a great day, everybody. Good to know. Yeah, it was a very big news story. I remember my parents talking about it when I was young, and this came to light. And this was all that I had known of them. But doing a little bit more research, there's quite a lot to unpack here. But I think I became most interested in this because they came around at such an interesting time in Japan, and I think there's a lot of questions that I have that I'm curious if you have the same curiosities about how something that seems so innocent at first can turn into something like this, because at its roots, the Aum Shinrikyo cult started as a group of people that wanted to change the world for the better through yoga. That's the origins. Is it started with yoga, and have either of you done yoga before?
Yeah, I won't anymore though.
Okay. Yeah, careful. Next time you go to Downward
those
Dog,
freaks.
you could go to there. Yeah, it's interesting because I've only engaged in it through trying to do it with my wife through a YouTube video. I've never been to an actual class, but anybody that I know that practices yoga, and they're not part of this cult, but essentially are part of yoga practice, it seems to be a very beneficial thing for their life. And so knowing that that's a huge part of these origins, it kind of remains confusing to me of how do we get to the point that we're attacking mass groups of civilians in your own country. So, there's a lot to unpack here. So this cult was founded in 1984 by Shoko Asahara. Originally was born Chizuo Matsumoto. He was partially blind, studied yoga and mysticism, and he famously again, he's partially blind, and the school that he was sent to was a school for the blind. He's documented as being a tremendous bully because he essentially was less blind than many of his other students and would steal their money and give it back to them, and was basically starting like rackets at their school in which he would give the money back if they would do favors for him. And the reason this is often brought up is people will point to this and say, see, he had tendencies even at the beginning. He was always going to start a cult, which I think is a little bit silly to kind of go through.
I mean, it makes sense. It's the old idiom, right? Like, in the land of the blind, the partially blind is king. Right?
Yeah.
What do you expect him to do?
So yeah.
True. I have a tattoo that says that.
That's good. That's good. So he grows up to get into snake oil sales. He gets into, again, part of the mysticism is he ends up selling tangerine peel oil and water as an elixir to heal. He's arrested for this, and during his time, he gets deeper into the practice of studying Buddhism and comes out of his prison experience as an enlightened human being. The cult starts in that he is a very accomplished yogi. I believe that's the term. To be a yogi.
I've heard that word.
Okay. Yeah, I believe the term is
Like
yogi.
the bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the best bears. And
Was Yogi Bear part of Aum Shinrikyo? Was that their anime?
that's right. A picnic basket.
Yeah. It's all making sense.
And downward dog. Those two things just in common. Hey, boo boo. Somebody had to do it. Don's got us. What's interesting is he leaves the practice of, again, looking at something that theoretically would be helping people, which he starts studying Eastern medicine. He uses this to rip people off, comes out of Buddhism and the life of essentially the acceptance of non-attachment principles and avoiding suffering through the lack of attachment to things, and then begins to amass followers that need to pay to be a part of his teachings. This really begins to escalate, especially through the following years, because he famously acquires a ton of gifts and cash that he brings to the Dalai Lama to set up a meeting with him, to which he says he wants to discuss and have a conversation. But the whole purpose of him doing that was actually just to stage photographs of him being on stage with him. Mm-hmm. To which later he uses to indicate that he's been blessed by the Dalai Lama in his pursuit of kind of religious freedom. He has a book, and I don't want to mess up this title when he hits his peak.
Is it like Buddhism : Neon Genesis?
Oh, it's almost that good. There we go. Declaring myself the Christ, disclosing the true meanings of Jesus Christ's gospel, Shoko Asahara. This is where we really.
I mean, he's not the first one. There's good money in declaring yourself the Christ.
No, not by any means.
When's this all happening? This is the 70s or the 80s?
So he founds this in 84, and it's really focused on yoga at this time. Okay. And what's interesting is he's posting advertisements in a magazine called Twilight Zone Magazine, which is a science fiction magazine.
Yeah.
And so he is intentionally kind of going this route of like, there's all this mystical, he's almost like playing into the fact that it's this very sci-fi conspiratorial, like, ooh, on top of it. And it seems that at a certain point, he starts just taking it more seriously.
Well, like L. Ron Hubbard was doing the same thing.
Yes.
Like just a few years earlier, right? Like,
yeah.
There's kind of a playbook there.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I've done much less.
Is it because like people who are into sci-fi and fantasy, they're already sort of like alternative they're already interested in like alternative ideas or like discourse, and so you can kind of worm in with a fun sci-fi premise and then kind of flip the switch on them and be like, well, but you're a smart person, you already think true. Outside the box, why can't you go a little further?
Right. Yeah. I would think so. The documentary that I watched to pull a lot of this information is based on the book that was published about the cult. And it's interesting because they take a stance that because Japan in the 1980s is at the peak of consumerism and doing pretty well financially, that there's a counter culture that's emerging saying like, I don't know if all of this success and economic wealth is actually a good thing for the soul, leading to people wanting more. And so then these types of things pop up of like, where can this be? And they're also going to attribute it a lot to the forced retiring of the idea of the God Emperor in Japan following the end of World War II, and like where does religion come from in Japan? And there's like a whole identity that's being mixed around. It's difficult to say, especially not being a social scientist and studying up on Japan. But again, going with kind of what you just said, I think a lot of times these are how these things happen, is like the right social conditions come along and people generally begin to follow. So starts off, simple enough that he's incredibly talented at yoga and bringing people to physical and spiritual harmony. But then this leads to, he was famous for taking a photograph where he's levitating. So he's in the full lotus pose, which essentially looks like you're sitting cross-legged, but you've brought both of your feet up into the ball socket of your hip as you're sitting, which requires tremendous flexibility. Well, the photo was taken because he essentially used his glute and hamstring muscles to like launch himself off the ground in a hop. In that position. And the descriptor under the photo in one of their pamphlets says, look at our God in peace as he's or look at the Lamb of God in peace as he's levitating off the ground. And what's hilarious is if you look at his facial expression, it looks like he's doing like a deep squat with tons of weight on his back, like just it's like being launched into the air. So
not at all in peace.
Not at all in peace. But yeah, essentially made these claims for that. So where this starts to take off, I think, is money, because they've
started off good and pure, but money, like we know this story, Don. Money corrupts, and it turned it into
not me.
Organization. Oh no,
no! Send all your money to me. I'm not corrupt.
Yeah.
That's where we're going, baby. So he begins to attract students from the university who are more free-minded in thinking. And one of the he essentially starts to employ a team who are in the sciences. And this is going to come around later, but he starts to get some that are into engineering and architecture and science. And they start some very aggressive street outreach. They begin to use a media production company that produces anime for them, that like portrays him with, by the way, he's very much not blind in the anime. Like he really has done a number.
Not blind at all, huh?
No, very much. Yeah, his eyes are completely open to the world.
Man, never forget your roots.
It's a bummer. Exactly. And they would also use free yoga classes essentially to bring people in before the spiritual portion would start. But the interesting thing is the message always followed. You don't need things of this world. You don't need money to satisfy you. That's what's being taught to you by the culture. So as Don just said, give all that to me. Give it to good old Shoko. He'll take care of you. And all will be well.
And no one did, because no one would fall for that.
Well, membership in Japan peaks at around 10,000 people in the early 90s. And it starts to get incredibly,
So is this kind of like a telephone cult, right? Like are people meeting in a physical space, or is it kind of one of those things where like, hey, wire some money over the phone, and we'll give you a voicemail blessing or something?
Physical space. People are leaving. They're building kind of commune type structures.
Okay.
In a mountain town outside of Fuji. They are reconciling in different meeting halls. And what's interesting is like there's actual clips you can find of newscasters that are having Shoko on the news. He's, again, going back to, as Don said, incredibly charismatic, great at speaking. A lot of television shows are bringing him on as a talk show host where he's demonstrating different enlightening rituals and people that are receiving, these spiritual bonuses. And it's very out of place. Like when you watch it, like there's a sequence of him rubbing his thumb on somebody's like forehead back and forth. And this woman starts convulsing and kind of shaking. And it's fairly disturbing to watch.
It's entertainment though, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, like they're like, well, this guy's gonna pull views. He's a freak, right? Or they believe him, and then that's fun too, or something.
Yeah, that's the strange part. Is it's like, yeah, where are we with that? Is it a matter of like it's just gonna pull views, or are they trying to play into this like, hey kids, we all know you're looking for religious enlightenment and freedom, and we've got the best version here in Japan. It's tough to say because they have them on a lot. So probably somewhere in the middle is my guess.
Yeah, it's like getting Jesse Ventura on. Like you're always it's going to draw people there, and so why not?
Absolutely.
Jesse Ventura is actually that's a bad. I like Jesse Ventura.
Get him on here.
He's not that crazy. He said some crazy things, but he's mostly all there.
I'd really like to hear you defend that on a podcast. Please give us Jesse's life.
Jesse's all right. Everyone in Minnesota loves Jesse Ventura.
Absolutely. And his wonderful voice. Yeah. So recruitment is beginning to peak. Another interesting thing happens. So talk to you about the team of educational groups. He starts running rituals in which, if you'd like to, and I think this is where we get into this isn't good. Or maybe it is really good. I don't know. You tell me. There's deeper levels that you can hit. Like now you're in Aum Shinrikyo.
Yeah.
But would you like to go deeper?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, fantastic.
There's no end to my dedication to this.
For the equivalent of what somebody described as around $8,100 of today's money, you could drink a small amount of his blood.
Oh, that's a steal. Of course I will.
Good. We're going to get some.
If I got to drink it, I can't just put it on my nightstand.
No, there was also a less involved ritual in which, because he was so clean, and this is way before OnlyFans, you could also drink his bathwater. He was doing that.
Oh,
yeah, I'm going to pass.
Trendsetter.
Big time. But it's just, I start to get a little bit cringy over this.
$7,000 headphones too. You could just listen to him and his brain waves would enter your ears somehow. Absolutely.
Damn.
A little less invasive.
Yeah, I'll take that one. It's cheaper too.
Absolutely.
Can I get these headphones?
They later found out that probably some of the first people who died that were part of the cult is there was another initiation ritual to go deeper with the guru, was an isolation chamber in which he would put tons of people's bodies for several days in a completely dark and cold space. Like it would usually be built underground. They would shield it off. You'd have to stay there for a certain amount of time and then you would come out enlightened. Well, years later, when they raided the compound that we'll talk about, they found that there were bodies in there that had been cremated, that most likely they had died from asphyxiation or dehydration while in this experience. And you might be wondering, after you go deeper with this, what do you get? What do you think you receive?
I mean, it must be like an enlightenment, a piece of the soul.
A signed copy of Dianetics.
Yeah.
Big time. Close. It was actually a cassette tape of the Shoko repeating over and over in Japanese, do good works, do good works, do good works, do better things, continue meditation, continue meditation, continue meditation, suffering is behind, over and over again as quickly as possible. Just hours long, and he would individually record these for each of the members that goes through the process.
That's it.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
Like I feel like I've seen some of these things before, and it seems like the process is I'm supposed to show up with some sort of hole in my psyche or soul or trauma, and then this person's supposed to do some weird shit to me, and then I come back healed from that, right? That's not how this works.
I wanted that for you. He didn't want that for you. So he wanted you to buy the blood. So buy the blood. Buy the blood.
And I just get a cassette. Why can't I just buy the cassette?
He's going to record it for you. It's going to be, and only
I'll
the
just
most
buy it.
privileged. Only the most privileged.
Just let me buy
Only the most
it.
privileged. You must be isolated first. Then you can have the cassette.
Okay.
Sorry. It doesn't work out well for you. So,
I need a different cult.
yeah, I'm sorry.
I get how I kind of. We'll get into this later, I'm sure, but I'm sure we'll eventually talk into why do people arrive at these things, right? When do they subject themselves to these things?
This group of people is unusual because it was PhD students and scientists and people who are legitimately smart,
Right.
And not the usual. When you watch a TV show that has a cult, it's usually easily fooled people who are recruited into these groups, but
Disconnected.
In this case, it
from
was
society or community in some way.
yeah, it wasn't that. So it's
It serves, as maybe a deeper warning on, again, right place, right time, because how does that happen? But here we are. There was another group that was recorded on entering, which was a group of language students who studied specifically Russian. Any ideas of why Shoko would be so excited to have Russian-speaking members of his cult?
for the vodka.
Yeah.
Definitely. That potato whiskey does it right. That's exactly.
I don't know. When is this? 80s? Something to do with the Cold War?
Yeah, we're at the end of the 80s, early 90s.
I'm stumped.
Well,
Nukes? Does he want nuclear weapons?
baby, we're
Is he
on our
already? Is he thinking about weapons?
Oh, we're thinking about weapons.
Why
That's
are
right.
we thinking about weapons?
Well, our boy is able to amass about 30,000 members at its peak in Russia that start to meet. And the main reason...
And the scientists and engineers again? Russian ones?
Well, if there's ever been a group of people that are interested in sharing their knowledge of weapons construction and military grade helicopters and all these things that we're going to get
Buying
into,
helicopters.
the Russians are going to be way more interested in talking with him about this. And so they make a concerted effort to do this. As this increases, and as you have a group of people that are buying your book that you are the Christ, and they'll isolate for you, they'll drink your blood, they'll drink your bath water, and they'll pretend to levitate with you. Maybe he did. Who knows? I haven't drank the blood, but you begin to think very highly of yourself. I think that this leads to some dangerous ways that you can think.
Kind of like we do. We think highly of ourselves now.
Well, I mean, why do you think I asked about, how you'd start to run the Uncannibals?
No, I get it. I'm saying I empathize with our
Shoko.
protagonist here. Yeah.
That's it. Protagonist indeed. Well, it leads to other thoughts. If you're the Christ, you could also be the
devil. Why stop at the Christ when I could be the devil?
or the leader of the country of Japan. So decides to run. They run Shoko as a candidate in national elections under the Truth Party. And
always never been a bad Truth Party.
No, absolutely. So pushes for this at the height of this because, of course he's going to get elected. He's got all of these people under his belt. So, and of course I know that, no, he doesn't win the election.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was trying to build that up into, and of course you heard about him because he was the leader, right? And
I'm pretty sure he wasn't, but I could see how he might have almost been.
Yeah, he
Was it a landslide or was it close?
wasn't even close.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just got
So
completely,
he's popular, but
yeah.
30,000 Russians only takes you so far when you want to be elected in Japan, I guess.
It's unfortunate. He doesn't do too well. This is catastrophic for him, considering what he's running in this cult. Because as a follower, now that you've been indoctrinated into the cult, how would you view your leader if he's not taking
Well, clearly it's not the leader's fault. It's the world's fault.
There we go.
The world is run by demons and Oni, and we need to... I get it now. I understand where the attacks come from. Damn it.
The cult takes a very distinctive turn towards the apocalypse following this.
Oh, they just want not to overthrow the government. They just want the whole apocalypse.
Well, if he's not elected, it can't be a world that's pure and good and right.
Oh, so it's not just
So
we're
it
not
must be
stopping
the
at the
end.
nation.
It must be the end.
whole cosmos is involved.
Yeah, this is that's correct. So this moment really takes things in a dark direction, in which he essentially says, "Well, only reason that this couldn't have happened is our world is coming to an end." He begins to preach doctrine about how they are the sole responsible purveyors. And again, this is like only to his most enlightened and the ones in the innermost circle. We are the ones that are responsible for taking people into the afterlife and purifying the earth of those that would work against us. So he takes this very personally, to say the least. And yeah, everything becomes apocalyptic. And in the compound that he that they're in, the group of scientists that I brought up earlier they have numbered buildings that are in the compound, and building 6 out of the 8 that I believe were there. Building 6 was dedicated to the production of chemicals and gases that could be used in warfare. Later, when the compound was raided, they also found knockoff Kalashnikovs that were being built so they could have armed forces. But their big focus was on producing agents that could be used to attack and basically perform terrorist attacks on people, which is where eventually we get the intersection of when this attack happens on the subway. But before that happens, there is a group, and it's interesting because the documentary outlines that there were 8 people that were killed in the Matsumoto region outside of Mount Fuji that had died from various conditions in which their lungs stopped working or they experienced tremendous burning in their eyes. This included people that were turning on their cars and then suddenly the sun turned red. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see. I had to go inside of the house and we had to call a hospital immediately. And so some of these people had survived, but what they had found is that the group was essentially testing this agent in these smaller regions, like these smaller towns, to see and test like how effective it would be in killing people quickly. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is this group, like these deaths that happen, they didn't push further into investigation. A lot of those were kind of open investigations that they didn't pay much attention to. And there's a very strong voice of people that are outraged in Japan because had those investigations been pursued and looking how close the compound was to where they were at, it's highly possible they maybe could have stopped the 1995 attacks, especially considering those deaths had happened in 1994. It's difficult to say, but this one is big.
It's kind of like a problem of sometimes the imagination of the security forces is not up to task, right? Like, well, why would you think this weird guy you saw on TV is amassing an army? You know, like until it's a bad thing happens, right? And then we can calibrate and adjust. But then some new insane bad thing will always happen, right?
Yeah. Well, they also had an incident in 1989. So this is before he had ran. The Aum cult was getting tremendous pressure from a lawyer named Sutsumi Sakamoto, who specifically engaged in anti-cult, lawsuits and investigations. And because of some of the suspect behavior and the fact that people were leaving their homes, there had been incidents we haven't even gotten into. They had found that people have been dosed with LSD and also and they're not quite electroshock. That's not exactly the word, but essentially electric probes that are being installed on people's heads to simulate LSD while people are having these yoga experiences. he begins to research that I think something's up here, because we're seeing that so many people are joining this and then never leaving the group. Like they just stick with the group and then they can't ever go outside again, which is where the cult-like behavior shows up. Well, in 1989, Tsutsumi Sakamoto and his wife and infant son were found dead in their home. He had hammer wounds to his face. They had been injecting him with potassium chloride. I believe the compound. Yeah, potassium chloride had been injected into each of them. And the bodies of they found the lawyer, but the bodies of the son and the wife were found several years later, split between 3 different places, in order to kind of throw the scent of the police off. But the murder of this lawyer clearly would have been connected, because most of the activity and the publicity of him moving forward was dedicated to this cult. Him being wiped off the face of the earth also could have been one of these signals, essentially saying like, oh, we probably shouldn't mess with them. Because when the government had changed that the emperor was not declared the legalistic religious group in Japan, that was like the state mandated religion that people were in, there was a group. I need to look up their name.
You're talking about the end of World War II, right?
Yes.
When the emperor is forced by the United States or Douglas MacArthur, right, to revoke his godship, his God Emperor of Doonship. He has to give up that card.
He wasn't a worm. That's the only thing. State Shinto. Here we are, the Toko, or the Special Hire Police. They were also known by their nicknames, the Peace Police or the Thought Police, for any of you Orwellians out there, that made sure that they carried out civil law enforcement, controlled political groups and ideologies that deemed to threaten the public order of the Empire of Japan or the godhood of the emperor.
That just sounds like goodness.
Yeah, I want them.
Why don't we have more of them?
We need to get back to 1911 to 1945. There's Japan.
Right.
There's never a bad party called the Truth Party. There's never a bad police called the Thought Police.
It's like there's a deity of irony that just makes sure that everything is named.
Yeah,
that's right.
If I just name the thing something good, they can't possibly be bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Going back to the documentary, it speculates that because there had been such tremendous religious enforcement, I mean, with a group called the Thought Police, you can't really make it up, right? That they didn't want to push too hard on a group of people that are trying to start a national identity with a new religion in Japan, right? Because it would be perceived as the same thing.
That's always the like rub with these sorts of things, right? It's like you can clearly look at a lot of cults and be like, this is bad, but you can't like go and do a Waco, because look what happened at Waco, right? Like,
yeah.
So there's never, it seems like a good solution to these,
right? There's not, but it doesn't.
It's like wasps.
Seem to be.
You know? There's no good. I can't let the wasps live, but it's not going to be good if I go and get them out either.
Well, March 20th, 1995, as I said, they executed their biggest attack, leading to the deaths of 13 and thousands who were injured. And still to this day, there are people that are dealing with chronic breathing and health issues from the attack. Evidence is gathered. They finally raid the compound in May of 1995, and Shoko Asahara is arrested at that time, finding the explosive, drugs, chemical weapons, and Russian helicopters as well. Yes, they were getting ready.
He's making the helicopters.
Yeah, they were putting together helicopters that they could
suck, man. Keep your scientists well paid so they don't join a cult.
That's right. 13 Aum leaders, including Asahara, are sentenced to death. And shockingly, the execution of Asahara actually only happened in July of 2018.
Wow.
That's when those started. So he was in prison for a very long time.
But the trial took 8 years.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know that.
Yeah, the trial started in 1996 and it wasn't finished until 2004 because they tried each of the 13 counts separately, and so it was a very complex. And there's 13 other leaders that were also be on trial for at the same time. So yeah, he wasn't sentenced until 2004.
Yeah.
But even so, the length between sentencing and the execution is lengthy for Japan standards, the 14 years in between. So
yeah.
Is this part of the walking the line of not wanting to they wanted to have all the T's crossed and I's dotted sort of thing?
Well, they have appeal processes for sure, but there's been conversation that some of it might have been to delay on purpose to reduce the likelihood of martyrdom.
No, okay.
Right. To just give some
such old
time.
news.
Yeah. Well, another thing to consider with this is it's interesting going that way, because I actually probably see it more that way as well. You would think that in that moment that he's arrested, it's time to disband and all of this is gone now, right? Of course. Took care of the bad guy.
Yeah. Good.
No, we didn't.
Oh, no.
The cult has never fully disappeared. It may not be identified anymore as Aum Shinrikyo, but we do still have a group called Aleph that continues under a softer image, but very similar core beliefs. And also the Hikari no Wa, which is the Circle of Light, which is a more reformed group, distancing itself from the subway attacks. The reason that this is significant is the Japanese government still monitors these groups under the Public Security Intelligence Agency, and there are still over 1,500 registered followers that are active in Russia and Japan at this time. So they are part of the security discourse that Japan has now, because that was such like a broad and publicized attack.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is the message, although maybe not as apocalyptic and violent, there's one of the last things that Shoko was described as saying to the followers that weren't captured was the way that our message can continue is there should be a public way that we can speak, so we can still continue to speak in the shadows, basically indicating that the group should split into two, that one of the groups should be at the forefront saying that's not how we were at all. That was a group of extremists, where a smaller group continues to meet. And the interesting thing is, of course, like between Aleph and Hikari no Wa, there's not like a discernible, well, is that the bad one that's like meeting in the shadow? It's like, no, they're just two different groups that are presenting similar ideas that said, well, they had some great things and they did make that great anime.
Yeah.
That
opening credit song slapped.
Is that always the case? But yeah, they're not completely. Yes, the name is gone, but they do still have this presence as this group that is seeking enlightenment through yoga, deprivation, tremendous leadership, and I think that that's like the only thing that is there is they don't have the same kind of iconic leader in the same way, but the values are still there. And it brings to question so many things. I think about like, how do you get there? And I think, the idea of one rejected person is part of it, right? Like if somebody doesn't, okay, I'm not the Messiah and I can't be the leader of Japan as well. Time to go apocalyptic. I mean, that's one thing, but it seems, Don, you kind of brought this up. We have people that are PhD students and PhD grads that are saying this has got to be it. And I find it, I guess, troublesome that we see this time and time again. I'm not the most versed on all cults by any means, but there seems to be this through line of like, how did we get so many people to buy into this idea, and then seem to do what to me seems to be objectively bad in the world?
There is a logic to it, though. I mean, we were identifying, and I don't think we pointed it out too specifically, but there are a series of cults that all kind of end the same way, like Heaven's Gate, Waco, Jonestown, like they all kind of lead towards the same, conclusion. And to those of us who are thankfully not members of the cult, it seems like why would you choose that? Like that's a ridiculous thing to choose, right? But especially when you're talking about people who are educated and thoughtful and university scientists, there's a system that's broken in the world, and you can identify that the system is broken, and you can feel powerless in that system. And so hope is just a delusion because there's nothing I can do. But then when you turn to, well, if the system is broken, then we should burn it down, break the system, and we'll just start over.
Right.
And Asahara actually, in addition to drawing from Christian mythology and elements of belief, he also drew from Hindu mythology, and at one point actually declared himself Shiva as well as Christ. And so
you got to take both.
But that idea in Hindu belief, right, is that destruction is not bad. Like we're viewing this all as bad because we're not. Creation. Destruction is necessary so that new creation can come in and fill that space. And he would tell his followers that we're in that last stage of Hindu time, the Kali Yuga. I don't forget. Anyways, the stage of moral decay. And so we're doing everyone a favor by bringing destruction.
Yeah.
So that way they don't have to live in this this moral decay anymore. So like there's a logic to it that I mean it makes sense, but please don't go out and adopt this belief yourself. That's not an advertisement for the cult, but like it's just people say, gosh, how could people have made this decision? And that's kind of how, right? It's that it gives you a type of empowerment. Destruction feels like justice.
I have a voice again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I do think when we talk about cults, oftentimes we sort of like victim blame the cultists and the people who get caught up in these things, and it does sort of, like you said, Don, it seems illogical, but it's not. And I think I think everyone has a thing they kind of believe in a cult-like way, whether that's like a group of people they actually hang out with, or an organization they actually join, or just a thing they think about themselves or the people in their lives. And most of us are fortunate enough that thing is not a thing that leads us to cause self-harm or harm to other people, right? And then the people that get caught up in these more famous kind of tragic cult incidences just happen to be, right? I don't think they think differently than any of us. They just wrong place, wrong time sometimes.
Right.
I think that it happens more frequently than we identify, however, because it's the same thought process. This was just I was just reading an article about this yesterday. It's the same thought process that allows white Americans to justify racism in their own behaviors and beliefs, right? It's that, yes, I'm voting for a system that will continue to oppress me and will take away my safety net and take away my benefits, but at least I'm not, this other color person, right? There's a belief system that you are part of the select few because you can identify with belonging to a larger group, even though you're not getting the benefits of that group, because you're not, you're othering.
You're an insider,
right? Yeah. And you're part of the winning team. You're the winning remnant. And so like even like QAnon, right? Like QAnon is a weird example. And I know we try to usually steer clear of politics here, but so just as an academic example, it doesn't have a charismatic leader.
No.
Right? There's no, it's just a belief system that somehow has flourished online because the online communication technology that we have today that we didn't have in 1995 allows for that sort of distributed belief system to exist without that charismatic leader saying this is what you must do.
I feel like it kind of did. It's just a very digital charismatic
avatar
leader, right?
of it.
Q is just a sort of, you can kind of,
do you think there is a Q?
I think there was once, but I think there were multiple Qs. But I think the idea of Q is enough, right? The idea of a leader is enough. And then that might even be the most powerful leader a cult can have, because then the members can kind of superimpose whatever qualities they want on that person.
And super dangerous too, because there's no way to turn it off.
Yeah.
Right. Like we can execute the leader of this cult, but you can't execute when it's distributed.
No. But I like you said, I think that's just it's a thinking. It's a kind of thinking any of us can fall into. And sometimes there's a person shepherding it, and sometimes there isn't, right? And Aum Shinrikyo and the Branch Davidians and all these kinds of things were like I think those are easier to understand and sometimes grab our attention more because there is like such a clear villain at the center of it, and then we can kind of like point our fingers and wag at him and be like, well, I would never fall for a guy like that. But like, but you would fall for other things, whether there's a guy or not, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, dang.
Well,
okay, you've talked me out of it. I don't think any good can come from our cult worship scheme. We should just do it Patreon instead.
okay, you can stay then.
Okay.
That's fine.
Buy us a coffee. There's a link on the website.
I mean, either way, the audience is still giving us money. So
that's it.
And that's the real goal.
Yeah. No blood, though. I'm not going to be offering my blood.
No, I won't offer blood, but you could probably find a weird picture of me or something.
Thank you. It means a lot. Gentlemen, thanks for talking with me about this today.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention, Doug.
At least one of those.
And hey, Uncannibals, don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, or be cast into the outer darkness where there is nothing but weeping, gnashing of teeth and true crime podcasts.
See you later.